I'm LVN, first name Oscar, and yeah, I play games.
I'm YZ0, also known as Zai, and I also play games.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to start with the first thing, guys. Like, how did you get into this? Like, at what age did you start?
I think for me, it started with Minecraft. But like sort of Minecraft, you would think it's got a competitive aspect, but then you sort of get into the PvP aspect and that sort of thing. And then from there, just getting into gaming, I found Counter-Strike, like watching a few streams on Twitch. And I had a big screen desktop Mac at the time, so I couldn't run CS:GO, even though it's not that demanding of a game. So I had to save up for PC, and then in 2017 I got a PC and just haven't stopped since playing CS.
Wow. And what about you, Zai?
Well, I saw Counter-Strike on a YouTuber in YouTube. Then I forgot about it like years later, and then on like 2016, I got the game with a very bad laptop. I just played it ever since, to be honest.
Why Counter-Strike? Like, what was the thing that drew you to Counter-Strike compared to other?
I think like the tactical aspect and like just how the game works is very simple, and in the understanding it's very simple. Then it just takes time and time, get used to the mechanics, and then all the strategy behind it is very interesting. And it's always, even though it's almost always the same things, it's always changing at the same time.
Wow. And speaking of hardware, because you mentioned like you didn't run it on a very good laptop. So like, what was the hardware you were running back then, and now, and what you're running now for your gaming rig?
For me, I struggled on running CS and like on low settings, like 50, 60 FPS.
Right.
But at the time, I didn't really care because what drew me to Counter-Strike was like the teamwork aspect. I saw a lot of people like communicating to each other, like doing stuff together. I found it like really cool and fascinating. So at the time, like I didn't really focus much on like FPS or like how good the game ran. I just cared about just playing the game.
Like the community.
Yeah, and just like seeing what the game's like about, like mechanics and like how you play the game. I just kept like playing it, I guess.
Wow, that's similar for you, I'm assuming.
Pretty much, yeah. And then just my PC wasn't the best, the first one. It was just good enough to run CS.
I mean, you were kids back then,
exactly,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. So saving up for one, I was looking at about £1,000 for like a decent PC to run. And then I think 2021 I upgraded, got a pretty high spec one now. So it was also good to run other games. Like I said, played Warzone during COVID, and that could run pretty well. So it's still good for other games as well.
What do you know the spec of your machine? Like what graphics card you got? Is it like an Nvidia card or Radeon?
I think it's like an RTX 3070, I think.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, and an i9 processor.
Nice.
So it should be good enough to run pretty much anything.
Well, absolutely.
But yeah, for CS, you want to be running around 300, 400 FPS, which for like, if you play like Call of Duty or stuff, that sounds amazing. But yeah, for CS, that's the sort of FPS you want to be running to have like a smooth experience.
That's because you don't want a single millisecond of lag, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it will completely destroy your gameplay and the way you because like I'm playing Call of Duty and I'm pretty sure like, there's some moments it's like 60 frames per second, and that's good for me because I come from film and film is 24 frames per second, and you guys need 300 frames per second.
It goes with the same thing like the refresh rate of your monitor. So if you've got a 240 refresh rate monitor, if you're always constantly running to low 240, it's not going to feel as smooth as it could be. So it's all those little things that make it slightly better for you. So yeah.
What about monitors? Do you play with like one big curved monitor, or do you have two monitors?
The classic CS monitor is a Zowie BenQ 240 Hz monitor. That's pretty much the standard for most CS gamers.
Why is that? Is it the color calibration?
It's got like a black equalizer like effect, which takes away lots of dark shadows. It's very bright. If you go to a CS event and you watch the CS players, we haven't got the settings here, but it's very bright, very digital vibrance on full, black equalizer on full, so you've got no dark shadows, just full light. So you can pretty much see everything. When you're in smoke, if you're in darkness, you can pretty much see everything.
Wow, there's no hiding from you then, right? Well, let's talk about a little bit about your routine, because this is essentially, it's kind of a career for you guys, right? I mean, you know, it's like being an athlete. You know, I was talking to you earlier and I got my ass whooped by you, obviously, and seeing how you play and how you're just so focused, but yet at the same time, it's like second nature for you. It's like you've been constantly training. What is a typical average day for you when you're gearing up for, say, a tournament?
Okay, so Zai, if you talk about an average practice day, what's an average practice day like?
Okay, so like if you're in a team environment, you'll like have like you'll have like a spreadsheet where everyone could access, of your teammates, and I think it's like similar to every other sport where you'll have like a schedule, and it'll be like I don't know, like for like weekdays you'll prac and then you have like maybe weekend off or like
Right.
one day off and you prac like 6 times a week. It's basically up to you and what everyone's doing and what the availability is. But it'll be like, for example, in the weekends everyone will have the most time. You probably want to like practice like in the morning, and then end at like in the afternoon, like 2 or 3, and then it allows people to have like the rest of the day off, what they want to do. But in the weekday, it'll probably be like, depends everyone's variability, but it could be either to like, I don't know, 5 or 6, because that's when people are working. That's normally where they like, if they do part-time, that's probably where they end their work. And then it'll go up to like, either like, I don't know, like 8, 9, 10, depends how far you really want to go up to. But like, if like people are like more available, it'd be like in the afternoon, like 3 or 2 or 4, and end at like 8, 9.
What's the total number of hours you would do in a single session?
So like, if for a practice day, you don't really want to play more than 4 scrims a day. Each scrim lasts about an hour, and you play, so it's MR15. So if you were playing an official game, it'd be first to 16. But when you're playing scrims, you play all 30 rounds, so all 15 on one side, all 15 on the other. So the games last about an hour. You probably want to play about, the ideal schedule is sort of you have like an hour or 2 hours before you play, where you all get together, you talk about what the plan is for the day, what you're going to practice, all this stuff. Then you play 2 games for 2 hours, make sure you're on time, all that stuff. Then you have a break to go chill, talk about that, talk about the 2 games, they're ready for the 2 games before, have a break, eat and stuff like that, and you play 2 more games after that. And you just sort of evaluate the day after, and then you're over. And like what I said there, it's the ideal sort of schedule is if you play earlier in the day. If you're done by like 5 or 6, then everyone has the evening to do whatever they want themselves, whether it's just play more CS, have a break. If you played CS for quite a few days, you can just go out with friends, chill, all the stuff. Some people might have something going on later in the evening. There's some days you have days off. It's like, it's not really a 7 days a week thing. If you're playing 7 days a week all the time, it gets very tiring. You kids start hating being around your teammates because you're always listening to them.
It's the fatigue, right? You get like Counter-Strike fatigue. So it's really interesting to hear you balance that out of your everyday life, which kind of makes sense why you're constantly enjoying it. You're not bored.
Exactly.
Wow, that's cool. So like you're now, what, you're 21 and you are 19, and you guys started, what, like 13?
I'm 13.
I started when I was like
16. So I mean, that's a long time to be in the same game, same environment, training constantly. Do you feel like you'll be able to take your esports skills as like competitive gamers into other types of games, or do you really feel like Counter-Strike is my thing, this is the thing I'm always going to be doing?
I think it's like a hard concept for people to understand, that you play a game for so long, such a period of time, do you get bored and stuff like that? It's not really like that. It's like hard to get bored because there's so many different aspects that happen, and always the different sort of types of stuff in the game is always changing. And then even from the skills, maybe not skills you take in other games, but obviously if we're good at Counter-Strike, if you talk about other FPS games like Valorant or Call of Duty, you obviously have some like muscle memory things that make it a lot easier for you to adapt compared to going into non-FPS shooter games. Like I'm not that great at FIFA. I play all my mates at FIFA, and I'm the worst one there because I don't play FIFA every day. So stuff like that. Even like my sort of chill game outside of playing CS:GO is Rocket League. So that's sort of like a game I had to get used to a bit because it's completely different. It's no shooting each other. It's football with cars.
Cars, yeah.
But like the skills, maybe not into other games, but even like into the real life aspect in terms of myself as like sort of an in-game leader, like the leadership skills, making sure everyone's organized, like Sports Side said, having a schedule, making sure everyone's up to date with everything. Those sort of management skills are quite interesting, and it can definitely be applied elsewhere.
That's a really interesting take. Never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. You've got to be responsible. You've got to be sharp on your wits. You've got to make decisions. You've got to learn to work in a team.
Exactly.
Do you feel that's a similar thing in terms of providing life skills?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so, I mean, speaking of that, let's just wrap up on like what's next for you guys. You got like other tournaments? Do you want to like keep doing this, or do you want to like move into coaching eventually?
I think there's always tournaments. I think the biggest hype at the moment is Counter-Strike 2. That brings a lot more. That's going to bring a lot more horizons. There's always tournaments to be playing. Always, as long as everyone's got a time, you always want to keep on playing. See if you can reach the top. Because once you reach the top, you're living the life. You're traveling all over the world. You're on a very high salary wage. You're very comfortable with what you're doing. That's the goal for everyone, to be playing in those stadiums with those crowds and stuff like that. That's the goal. And then as long as you've got the time to do that, and as long as you've got a backup plan in case it doesn't go your way, then that's all you can do, really.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm excited to see what you guys do, and I'm going to talk to your manager now because I want to know more about how to manage you guys.
Hey guys, I'm John. I'm the owner of Team 7am. We're an international esports organisation. We're professional teams in Counter-Strike in the UK, in the US, and a European League of Legends team that also play at professional level.
Oh, wow. So you do cover League of Legends and Counter-Strike, not just one specific game.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I know, like, we spoke earlier, and you've got a history. You started off being the gamer. You've seen the growth of technology, right? Because obviously, when we spoke to the guys earlier on, they're talking about they started on a really crappy laptop, but they were happy with just 30 frames per second at the time. Yeah. But we've got the advancement of amazing GPU graphics cards, that NVIDIA Radeon by AMD.
Absolutely, it's definitely been a roller coaster of technology. I mean, I was dialing up when I first started playing Counter-Strike. If I wanted a good internet connection, I had to go to the LAN center, and then we could get. But then that was still not the greatest. So yeah, you were dialing up and telling your mum not to lift the phone up because you wanted to play games.
I remember that.
And all the way then through, getting broadband, and of course today's infrastructure is just next level really, and technology has advanced. I was carrying big CRT monitors around with me at tournaments, having to take them upstairs, and this stuff is heavy. And that was just the norm though. I mean, you would be literally just walking in these big tournaments with a queue of people with these big monitors, their monitors on their back, strapped to a backpack, and with keyboards hanging out of their bags, and people are sweating, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing, guys?" And this was just the norm. It's just what we did. We were gamers. We were all there for the same reason. It didn't matter who you are, what you were. Everybody was there to game, and it was just something about that I've never had or ever seen in any other industry, and I think there's something beautiful about that.
Yeah, it sounds it, dude. It sounds it. But I mean, you no longer carry those big CRT monitors. You have like better lightweight monitors now. Do you guys play on laptops much, or has it always been a specific PC gaming rig?
Yeah, I think there's a few people that will play on laptops, but most 99% of people, especially if you're playing at a good level, or certainly at a professional level, you'll have a good PC, and you'll be playing on everything that you can play on.
How often do you guys upgrade your PCs, and is it dependent on a new processor, or is it dependent on the graphics? Because I'm seeing the Counter-Strike you're playing here, the graphic fidelity is on the most simplest terms, that your textures are not 6K textures, we don't have no crazy cinematics. Yet everything's super, super fast. I'm assuming that's a conscious decision to have the visuals looking like that, right?
Yeah, everybody plays with different settings. You'll still find people that will play with really low quality settings because they're just used to that, and that's how they play. Some people will play at full resolution and try and have everything on very high and on ultra. It very much comes down to how you want to play. Counter-Strike itself is more CPU heavy, so because it doesn't have that necessary tough rendering, but it's very CPU heavy. So you've got to have a good processor, otherwise you get bottlenecked very quickly.
That's interesting, because most of these games today are so GPU dependent.
They are.
But we have to remember Counter-Strike when was that? That was made
Well, I mean, the original mod came out in 1999, right? CSGO was released 2013. And yes, they've had some updates over the since, but it's still the same engine that came out. Right. It was still the source engine from 15 years ago. Yeah. So there's not a huge amount of change, but it's still very CPU heavy. But not so much anymore. Obviously, most even mid-level CPUs now can handle Counter-Strike. But if you're struggling to get to that mid-level, you're still having problems.
Wow. Yeah. And what about peripherals? Because obviously we talk about processors to run the game, to get it to get 300 frames per second. But what about peripherals, things like keyboards and mouse?
Again, if you're playing at a high level, your peripherals are really important, right? Because you need to make sure that they're high quality. If you're using a wireless, that it's the best of the wireless. Otherwise, you're going to have input delay. Input delay means a death in game. Simple as. Headset is crucial in Counter-Strike. Probably one of the most important aspects of any peripheral, because the sound is very, very just so much part of the game. If you can hear someone before they hear you, you've already got an advantage. You know where they're coming from, you know what to do. You can then be in a particular situation to peek first, or you can use one of your utilities to be able to grenade, or just communicate to the team that you've heard somebody. Sometimes that element of communication and do nothing with it can actually make you run around, because you now know as a team what's going on. They're not coming on this site now because you can hear them early. So you can then rotate early, and all of a sudden there's 5 of you now on this site, and they're like, how did you do that? How did you know? And that just comes from sound. So Team 7am, We have a sponsorship with Cherry Extrify. They're amazing. The best peripherals that you can buy. They've been a fantastic company to us, and all of our players across the board get free peripherals from Cherry.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, listen, man, it's been great talking to you, and like, I'm so excited, like, what you guys are going to be doing. I'm going to be definitely following your team.
Thank you.
But good luck and everything, dude, and thank you again.
No worries,
Thanks.
anytime.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's the end of this episode, and look out for more session breakouts for IBC for Beyond the Frames. See ya.